3 News at 6:30 starts right now.
Thanks for joining me at 6:30. I'm Rick Marinon. We haven't used this graphic in a while, but tonight in our in-depth coverage, we are truly asking the question, who rules the schools in Oklahoma? Some of State Superintendent Ryan Walters' controversial plans hit a bipartisan wall in the Oklahoma House of Representatives today. This comes one day before what could be a heated state school board meeting. It was just a few months ago, State Superintendent Ryan Walters and the State Board of Education voted to start collecting citizenship and immigration information from anyone enrolling their child in an Oklahoma public school.
Our rule around illegal immigration accounting is simply that. It is to account for how many students of illegal immigrants are in our schools.
Now those plans hit a bipartisan wall in the Oklahoma House of Representatives.
It places an undue burden on schools, family, and workforce. And furthermore, the Supreme Court has already ruled in an Alabama case that schools aren't to do this.
Democrats and Republicans on the House Administrative Rules Committee expressed concern that Walters and the board were attempting to write new laws, not carry out laws already on the books.
This one I recommend for disapproval as well, primarily because I feel like it is something that needs to go through statute and through the legislative process and not through a rule.
The plan was already opposed by Governor Kevin Stitt and state law enforcement agencies working directly with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, who say the information was not relevant as they try to remove undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes after they crossed the border illegally.
I'm going to change that. I'm going to do what I can to change that. Collecting again, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids' addresses and immigration status in the state of Oklahoma, that's not a public safety issue.
Democrats and Republicans are also ready to strike down a rule requiring all Oklahoma public school teachers to take a citizenship test as part of their licensing requirements after dozens threatened to quit, saying a knowledge test was insulting.
I have had career teachers reach out to me that said, and they're very good teachers, that said they would not do this and they would not renew. So I think we need to look long and hard at it.
The State Department of Education submitted also a request to state lawmakers to delete all rules and operational requirements regarding multiculturalism within the State Department of Education. But state lawmakers have to grapple with what is really diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, and what is really celebrating who people are and teaching us how to get along. Listen to some of the debate.
We've always used the schools to take people from various societies and build an American identity with them. And so I personally would say we need to keep this component, this tool in our toolbox.
If that is your intent, then let's take a look at this with a scalpel rather than coming at it and just getting rid of the entire thing. And I'd be glad to have that conversation with you if there is a scalpel on this, that we could come in and possibly cut away some things, but not all things.
Now, if those guys look familiar, those are two Green Country lawmakers. On the left is Tulsa Democrat John Waldron. On the right is Skiatook Republican Clay Stairs. The State Department of Education wants to delete all references and practices related to multiculturalism in order to try to comply with Governor Kevin Stitt's executive order to rid DEI practices in all state agencies. However, as you heard, there is some concern that some things that can teach us how to get along and realize we aren't each other's enemies could also be deleted too. Stairs and Waldron promised to work together, as you heard, with a scalpel and not an axe to come to acceptable agreements on how schools should move forward on teaching about things like Native Americans and America itself being a melting pot made up of many different people from many different backgrounds. On top of all of that we just showed you, tomorrow is the State Board of Education meeting. And as we've reported, multiple lawmakers in both parties say the 3 new board members Governor Kevin Stitt appointed to depoliticize the Department of Education have asked if it's possible to rescind the controversial social studies standards submitted to lawmakers earlier this year. Here is the agenda on your screen for tomorrow's board meeting. We should note, it does not mention anything about rescinding the social studies standards. State Superintendent Ryan Walters has sole control, at least for now, over the agenda, and it's not clear how exactly the 3 new board members who want to reconsider the standards will proceed tomorrow. Between working on the state budget, the financial dumpster fire at the State Department of Mental Health, a scandal at the Forestry Service, and the usual lawmaking process, state lawmakers say they simply do not have time and political energy to do anything with social studies standards this session.
If the state school board would like to take this on again, they are more than welcome to. There's nothing in statute that would prevent that from happening.
The standards are controversial because they include a lot about the life and death of Jesus Christ, incorporate more biblical instruction that is mixed with the founding of the United States. But then they also go a step further and encourage students to look into political scandals like where did COVID come from and was the 2020 election stolen and more. On top of the religious stuff, there is concern about public schools teaching too deeply about faith, something that families and their churches have traditionally done. State Superintendent Ryan Walters declared victory on Fox 23 last week and then said he is ready to fight those 3 new board members you see there put in by the governor if they want to do anything with these standards.
The games that these board members are playing are coming to an end. And look, I'm going to continue to fight that. And it's just really unfortunate that Governor Stitt is trying to undermine every aspect of education reform right now in the state.
State lawmakers say if the board does not rescind the standards tomorrow, they will more than likely take effect next fall. Democrats have filed formal resolutions in the House and the Senate to disapprove of the standards, but the Republican supermajority is actually split on whether to address some of the concerns or do nothing at all. And in a big revelation that confirmed what has at this point until today been political speculation and rumors, Governor Kevin Stitt said at his news conference just hours ago that he believes the social studies standards the board members voted on back in February were changed after they voted to send them to state lawmakers for approval. He said what happened to the standards is concerning.
The thing that concerned me was the mechanics, how it was done. So it's been showed to me from the board members that they were emailed a copy of those standards, but then there was a different standard that was sitting on the desk that they actually voted on. Well, that's very, very odd. In a corporate board setting, if a CEO came and sent the board a package and said, we're voting on this policy, but then they slid a different policy that they actually were voting on, the board would be very, very frustrated, hold people accountable. The problem right now is these boards are supposed to hold people accountable, right?
Tomorrow is a big day. We're sending our Devin Lyon down to Oklahoma City to see how things play out. We also know that one board member who usually votes with Walters said he likely can't make this month's meeting. So Stitt's 3 new board members would actually make a majority.